Okay, good morning everybody, and welcome to our second and final Active Communities Networking session and online learning opportunity. Thank you very much for everyone who's able to join us this morning. We're likely waiting on a few more folks, but they'll just have to join the webinar a little bit late. So it looks like so far we have a few different communities represented today. Unfortunately, not all of the 15 were able to participate. We'd love to know from those communities whether this time of year is just challenging. We unfortunately had a couple cancellations this morning due to family illnesses. So we're going to be a small but mighty group today, and we'll hope to still get some good discussions going when you have a chance to share what you've been working on. We're just going to start with a quick poll just to get everyone engaged and using the webinar interface. So what is the theme song today?
Hi, Stan. It's Nicole. I just need to interrupt for 1 second. We're having computer difficulties, so we can just get you on the phone, but we're going to have to call IT and then get this sorted.
Oh, sure. No problem. Thanks, Nicole.
Okay. So just so you know, Play Campbell is here.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, great. All right. We'd love to know what, oh, everybody's got sunshine today. Oh, no, wait. Only one person's done it. Never mind. Sunshine, cloudy, windy, mostly sunshine, that's good. Awesome, great. Well, thank you for playing with us. So we do want to acknowledge that here at BC Healthy Communities, we operate on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Lekwungen and Wasanich, which is the territory covered by the Douglas Treaties. And we are very grateful to be visitors on this traditional territory and very thankful to get to work and play in such a beautiful place that is Victoria. Just a quick overview, we're going to just do community introductions, and then we're going to talk about the Midpoint Report that you all had to do and some of the things that we heard from you, some common challenges and suggestions for resources that you'd be interested in. And then it's your turn to chat about what your barriers have been and opportunities, different strategies for sustainability. And then we'll just wrap up with next steps. Because we're a small group today, we will definitely have you out of here on time, if not before. So yeah, it's always nice when meetings end on time or even early. So thank you. So it looks like on the call so far today, I have seen we've got Ajit from Okanagan-Similkameen Regional District. Ajit, do you want to just say hello to make sure that your audio is working?
Yeah, hello there, everyone. My name is Ajit. As was previously mentioned, I'm with the Regional District of the Okanagan-Similkameen. I've just been hired on as the lead, so I'm just starting to get my feet wet, and I'm looking forward to this meeting and learning lots.
Awesome. Thanks, Ajit. I'm just going to go down the list in order of who I see as participants. So, Amy Leah, do you want to introduce yourself?
I just put a bunch of food in my mouth. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Leah Tamburini. I'm the Senior Manager of Physical Activity at the Ministry of Health.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy Leah. Sorry for the bad timing. Carrie McKelvey.
Hi there. I'm Carrie McKelvey. I have a consultancy called Stride Consulting, and I have been working for a couple of years as the evaluator on the physical activity strategy. And more recently, I'm supporting the BC Alliance for Healthy Living in implementation of several of the physical activity strategy initiatives.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Mariah? Oh, Mariah's typing.
Where do you type? Right there.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mariah says to skip and she'll call in and then she can go. So for those of you who haven't used it yet, there's a chat box on the right-hand corner of your screen. So if you're having trouble with your audio or you have any questions, please feel free to just type into the box and we'll make sure to grab you and sort out any challenges you might be having. Okay, and I see we have Michelle on the line as well. Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Michelle Surratt. I can't talk very well. and I'm with the City of Campbell.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Sorry to hear you're not feeling well today. And Mike.
Mike Roy with the CO with the District of Lillooet.
Great. Thanks for joining us today, Mike. And oh, you're on. That's awesome. Nicole or Jody, I'm not sure who's on today.
Hi. Yep, at Play Kamloops, we've got 3 of us here today. Myself, Nicole from the City of Kamloops, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Katie Clausen from Pacific Sport Interior, BC. And Jody Laborde, and I'm here as administrative support for Play Kamloops.
Thank you all. Glad you could join us. And Sarah. We have Sarah from Colwood. *6 to unmute your line. Okay. Well, hopefully she can hear us if we can't hear her. Just a reminder, *6 to mute or unmute your line at any time if you need to speak up. And we'll have less feedback on the line if everyone's muted if it's not your turn to speak. Great. Thank you so much, everybody, and welcome. So the Midpoint Reports were a really great read for us. It was a really good opportunity to see what communities have been feeling over the last several months, how their projects have been going, how things are progressing or not, what some of the challenges have been, and then support needs that you might have. Surprisingly, we didn't actually find a ton of common challenges. Lots of communities had very diverse needs and issues experienced throughout their projects, which also speaks to the diversity of communities themselves and the diversity of projects that everyone's working on. So it's great to have this opportunity to come together and to discuss potential commonalities going forward with this work. Oh, Sarah, glad you can hear us, and I'm not sure what we can do to... What's that? Okay. Okay, Sarah, hopefully we can get your audio sorted out pretty quick here. So I just wanted to give a quick overview about some of the barriers that you have mentioned in your Midpoint reports, because that's what we're going to have the opportunity to discuss the rest of this morning, is some of the barriers you've encountered and that you've strategized to overcome those, and then opportunities for sustainability going forward. So some of the things that we heard through the evaluations were things like tight timelines for the project, which we totally understand. You know, the grant cycle can be challenging for some, and certain bureaucracies move along at a slower pace, so completely understand that one. Forest fires was unfortunately an issue for a couple different communities, which resulted in some delayed starts, which pushes that timeline even tighter. Quite a bit of staff changeover, so with different community partners, the staff were changing, which made consistency projects to be a bit of... One community unfortunately lost their consulting company when they closed their office, so they are working really hard to get back on their feet, and we're working to support them through that process. One community, some challenges with community, actually, that residents were not supportive of the grant application itself, and then caused a bit of a stir on social media. But I think from what I heard, that was a very small group of community members, and so it's just given them a better opportunity to move forward with different types of community engagement to reach a broader cross-section of the community. So sounds like things have been moving along in that community. And then rural communities struggling with access to contractors. So if you're in a more remote area, if you're in a smaller community, it's difficult to get contracting services out there. And even if you put out an RFP, it's difficult to get people applying for that contract. So that was mentioned by a couple of communities. And the one common thread I think that we saw was this multi-sectoral work being quite challenging in and of itself, even though it's incredibly valuable to bring different sectors to the table. It also makes projects challenging because you're trying to work with a large group of people who have different priorities, different timelines, so that ongoing communication between organizations or between different departments within an organization can be challenging. It can be an issue of capacity. If you're doing this grant project off the side of your desk, then maintaining that momentum and keeping all of the project partners involved and at the table can be something that's difficult to overcome. So that was definitely one common thread we found with the groups working multi-sectorally. Data collection and analysis was another one that was mentioned by a couple of communities, and that's something that we're trying to support communities with. So if that's you, then please do continue to keep us in the loop. And we understand that the evaluation piece can be really tricky, but we're going to go into that with the rest of the webinar today, using evaluation as a tool for sustainability. And then finally, technology. Any of the communities that are working with different technological interfaces, it doesn't always work for us. And even as we've seen on the call this morning, you know, our speakers don't work or we can't get our computer up and running. So when technology is involved, you just never know what's going to happen. Additional supports or resources needed that would be helpful to move your project forward. We didn't actually hear a ton, which could be good or could mean that you're not entirely sure. But for the most part, communities felt that they had the supports, resources that they needed, aside from maybe funding to keep their project going forward. So sustainability, I think, is a commonly expressed challenge. So nothing really to report on additional supports. One suggestion was getting the midpoint report earlier, getting the evaluation questions that we are going to be asking. So I just wanted to mention for the final evaluation that'll be due at the end of November, we do try and get those out as far in advance as we can. This is a provincial initiative, so we are working with the BC Alliance for Healthy Living to make sure that the questions being asked are working for all of the different communities that are participating across the province. So we do try and get those out well in advance. But now that you've seen the midpoint evaluation, you'll probably have a better idea of what types of questions we're hoping to ask at the final evaluation. So things around project partners, and through your application you identified the population groups that you're hoping to work with and to support through your project. So making sure that you have those evaluation tools along the way to measure your progress. So if you've identified a certain population group you hope to serve, then at the end of your project, how are you going to know if you're making a difference for that population group? How are you measuring your success? So those are the types of questions to think about going forward as you're evaluating your projects and getting ready for that final report. So that wraps up our midpoint reporting piece. Thank you everyone for filling out those reports so thoroughly. It was really great to read how everything is going with your projects. And now we would like to move on to the actual networking portion of the morning. We want to talk about your challenges might have been and how you've overcome those and what strategies you have for sustainability, knowing that we are now more than halfway through the grant period. Are you starting to think about how this project might be sustained? If you're seeing value in your community, how are you hoping to keep that work going forward to continue benefiting your community? So we want to talk about how you want to continue your work, how you might be able to leverage funding, how are you going to get that political commitment, how are you demonstrating projects, and what further resources might you need from us to support this work. And thinking about that, and a really important thing to consider is that a piece. Oh, I think if someone could just mute their line, or hearing a bit of feedback on the line. So in our first webinar, Diana spoke about the importance of evaluation and some strategies to state your projects throughout process evaluation and outcomes evaluation. So this is a really important part to consider when you're looking at sustainability, because if you have evaluating your project and demonstrating success, then it's going to be a really good tool for you to either get support from your elected officials to sustainably fund the work going forward, or to apply for future grant opportunities. Be able to have that evidence-informed piece that makes it look really valuable. So with that, we'd love to get started. We have through the reverse alphabetical order for communities because we had done A to Z the first time around. We wanted to make sure that we did the opposite this time. Unfortunately, Laura from Hucklip is sick, so we're going to move on next to Songhees. I don't actually think Chris is on the line. Chris, have you joined? We didn't hear back from a couple communities, so we wanted to make sure they still had an opportunity to join late. So moving on, do we have Josh from Penelakut? Okay, we don't have Josh either. All right, Ajit, you are up. Okanagan Smokening.
All right, hello everyone. Yeah, so just a couple of things that we've found here to be a couple of major barriers that we've had to try and overcome as recreation is one of the things that we noticed was that in our region there's established routines among a lot of our rural communities to travel into more urban areas to get their recreation programs. So what they do is they often carpool or travel together. So when we went to go implement our programs in these rural areas, a lot of people didn't necessarily know that we were doing them or that they had access to recreation programs so close to home. So in order to break that routine, our marketing has been a really important tool for us, because as soon as they recognize that these programs are available in their rural communities and very close to home, they're very quick to gobble them up and get registered and sign up, which it was tough at the beginning, but now it's nice because we're starting to establish a name and reputation for ourselves. So that was one of our major challenges that we faced. And then another one that we have, at least in our region itself, is as we are a relatively small office and community, whenever there is natural disasters, we are often pulled in a lot of different directions. So recently we've had flooding down here in the interior, and that has really put a hold on a lot of our recreation programs because we can't dedicate the time and resources necessary towards what we want to do because we're being pulled into the emergency operations center or other areas that require our attention. So that's been a challenge that we're sort of struggling with, but we've tried to overcome it and we do our best to do so, but at the same time, that's something that's sort of out of our control. So although we're attempting in our best possible way to take care of it, sometimes there's some stuff that falls through the cracks that just kind of sort of it's unfortunate, but it kind of has to because there's other priorities. In regards to sustainability, actually, one thing that we've done for a lot of our initiatives, or some of our initiatives, I should say, is that when we reach out to corporate sponsors to sometimes sponsor our programs or, sponsor whatever initiatives we have. One thing we've done is we've made sure the commitment for sponsorship is 2 years minimum. So that way, even after the grant period ends, we have that sustainability for at least a year itself. So that's one thing we found that's very good in ensuring the success of these programs continuing forward past the grant period as well. Hello? Hello?
Can anybody hear us here? We're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, Campbell can hear you.
If you're able to hear us, that would be great. Oh, fabulous. Okay, great. Speaking of technological challenges, right? Even on our end where we do this all the time. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ajit. Really appreciate that. And that was a really great suggestion about having that 2-year horizon, even though the grant was only a year. That's a really great suggestion, and hopefully other communities are able to do something similar. So thank you very much for being first up to share what your challenges have been and how you've been working to overcome them. All right, so let's see who we have next here. Mariah, Mid-Island ARC. I'd like to hear from you. Thanks.
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Oh, yes, I can hear you. Okay, I was unsure. I'm pushing *6, *6, *6, or #6. Hello, everyone. I'm Mariah Robinson. I'm working with the Mid-Island ARC in Nanaimo, Nanawas area, and just ARC stands for Aboriginal Recreation and Culture. This project, what I've found month after month or even week after week, the barriers have been the scale of collaboration and the partnerships that we have had over the last, what are we in? We're in June, so coming up to the 10th month. And but the way we've seen through it is just continuing to do what we do and to not so much focus on continuously trying to get people back on board, but it's been just keep doing the work that we're doing because community on a community level is appreciative and their lives are changing. So without always being at the table on a political front, it's been just trying to remove that and focus on what the objectives were, and that was getting our community healthy, active, and engaged. So communication and around one channel of communication, and that wasn't always easy to have multiple people strumming down but not wanting to be in the one pathway. So that has, again, just looking at who I have to report to, and that's all I said. I'm like, anyone else can go to you, but I'm not going to let that affect my work on a community level. Another thing has been the buy-in, and for example, we started this Fit Nation program, and this was an initiative through iSpark and Aboriginal Healthy Living activities, and that was just to get people moving. It's basically what we would all know as a boot camp, but we don't even say boot camp. We're changing the language of exercise to moving and just getting people active and out without having the expectation of being at a certain level before they even start and overwhelming them with or breaching their confidence and making them go outside completely out of their comfort zones without empowering them first. And so what the buy-in part is, we started this in one area in one community, and then after being approved on a director level, that they started the exact same boot camp on the exact same days. And so that was, again, going back to buy-in and communication, was not sure where the intent came out of that, but again, just removing that from how I deliver is I just kept delivering. And the people that aren't comfortable with, again, it proves the wording of language of saying boot camp and then just Fit Nation, and what seemed more welcoming. And these women are loving it. Their 3-year-olds are joining with them. The dads are walking the babies while we're on the waterfront engaged in activities, and now they're just being really grateful on their personal level of that. They become gardening, or they're walking, and they join some foam fest, and later on this month we're joining the Road to Recovery run, and they're just wanting to be together and active. And the other one was spaces. I do a lot of, because it's getting nicer, we do a lot of everything outside on a cultural level, on the boat, harvesting cedar, horseback riding, athletic programs, junior NBAs, all outside. Like, everything's been outside. And now that this 1 week we've kind of had a monkey birthday kind of weather where it's raining and sunny, spaces has been becoming an issue. And not so much a space to just come in and sit down and work on our social benefits and networking and peer support, but being able to still bounce a basketball without someone having a heart attack upstairs, worrying about some windows because kids are being active inside. So those have been our barriers, but we've been, again, I just completed, kind of made my own little oath to myself that I'm not going to worry about people higher above me, but just continue to do the work because community is asking for it. And that's what I'm allowing that fuel and that inspiration to come from, is from the community itself rather than whatever politics or whatever agendas are above. Then on a sustainability level, we've already sought multiple avenues of external funding. We developed a land and sea cultural coordinator position out of ours, which is solely focused on the physical and cultural activity in our students or in community on a public level. So as well as the Fit Nation piece, we've created policy changes with our nutrition initiatives and getting them included into our housing, or our housing areas taking over this, so that it's not solely dependent on the active communities grants. We've also strengthened partnerships with the Vancouver Island University and have 2 departments now taking over a lot of what our activities were with the youth levels, whether that's strengthening our after-school programs or creating family luncheons so families are together once a week and cooking together, eating together, and just being together. We've strengthened that, so I had 8 students in January come, and now I'm being asked on a faculty level to be inside their classrooms and getting more of their students involved because they like the work that we're doing. So I have absolutely no doubt that Mid-Island Arc will carry on after this project, because there's a lot of great work that's being done and communities asking for it. So yeah, I think in terms of evaluating, to understand that is we've created evaluation forms, so post activities and getting people to fill out, and trying to just not only focus on that statistical numbers that I can report on, but getting actual qualitative data on what's changing in people's lives and how people are, emailing me just, can we look at getting a new Fit Nation program, or can we add another day, or they can't wait for September for more programs to take place, what we did in the schools. So we're doing a lot of great work. I don't know if the work will carry on and so much on the scale of collaboration. I know there will still be a lot of collaboration, but without having me being obligated to I guess it's more or less freely floating and creating that collaborative piece rather than being obligated and tied to be a partner, if that makes sense, because I'm trying to just not so much worry about, again, at that larger scale, but work from community and ground up and grassroots. But that is Mid-Island ARC and what we've done. I know the reporting, the midway reporting, kind of put a scale of what we've actually done and made me think and something to be proud of. But it's, you know, that was just the beginning, and I know there's still a lot of work to be done. But yeah, thank you.
That's great, Mariah. Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like you are a busy lady and you have lots of different things. It's really great to hear that that support is coming from the community, because that is so important. And thank you also for bringing up the point about using qualitative data, that we don't just evaluate projects by, you know, distributing quantitative surveys and asking or tracking numbers or things like that. We can also just get that experiential information. We can talk to people and their stories and get those anecdotes, and that is just as important. So that's a really great, and I hope that other communities are able to use that too, because we can be so limited in the data we're able to collect, especially in smaller communities. So it's really great that you're able to hear those stories and get that support from the community. So must make you feel really good. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Shannon.
Okay. Nanaimo. Hannah, are you on the line? I don't see you on the computer here, but I'll give you a sec just in case you're on the phone. Okay, doesn't sound like we've got anyone from Nanaimo today. So, Mike from Lillooet, are you able to share some of your barriers and sustainability opportunities?
Really, our main barrier was just having the resources to move forward. Once we got ourselves a consultant on board, things are moving along fairly well. We've been able to get some engagement. Probably the bigger challenge we're having is trying to get a broader engagement in the age brackets. We found a lot of our inputs we were getting was more from the older senior sector, but we took some efforts and went out into the community in different areas and did get a bit more of was able to broaden that a little bit, but it took a little bit of extra effort. What we're looking to get out of this is a master plan moving forward. So from a sustainability aspect, we're looking at incorporating some of the elements into an upcoming OCP review and taking some of the other actionable items and seeing how we may be able to fit them into our financial plans moving forward. In that, we're also having a bit more of a tracking sheet on some of the actions that we're getting out of this master plan, and to be able to track our progress as we move forward to try and keep it current.
Great. Thanks, Mike, for sharing. Glad you were able to join us today. Hopefully things are moving along well, and sounds like you've got some good ideas for how to track progress and report back and keep the work going. So thank you very much for sharing. Okay. Play Kamloops. I will leave it to the three of you. And reminder, *6 to unmute your line.
Hi, this is Jody speaking here. Thanks for that. I think we kind of agreed with one of the points that you brought up earlier. One of our challenges has sort of been engagement of all sectors and working as a group, a collaborative group with that. We've had some challenges with just being able to bring health to the table, and that's just because they work at sort of a different level, I guess, in a lot of the organizations work really locally, whereas health, a lot of their mandates come from the top down. And so that's just been a piece that we've recently taken on to re-navigate again, and have a look at how we can engage health in a different way, because our initial approach just wasn't quite working. And that's part of what we're working on in the next few months, is just being able to bring some different lenses to the table from the health sector, not necessarily from our interior health region, but maybe from different pools, like looking at more of the private sector and stuff like that, to find some champions within that field that can sort of get on with Play Kamloops and help move us forward in that area. In terms of the numbers and evaluation pieces, we've been working really hard to sort of build that within our phase 1, and I guess look at what we can use to measure that in terms of success. And we've been working with so I'm going to lose her name. Shoot. That's okay. Jenny, yes, Jenny Green from Health, to sort of help us with building the capacity within health and stuff like that. And that is, I think that's the big piece for us in terms of challenges. We of course have a lot of good work going on at the table already. So in terms of programming and stuff like that, we're slowly moving forward. There's a lot of good pieces happening, but I think one of the major challenges for us has just been sort of engaging all sectors and collaborating and moving forward with each of the sectors. Nicole, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add to that too. And so with that becomes a challenge of some sectors and groups moving faster than the other. So in terms of our sport team, we've got pretty good legs under us and making a lot of progress, but getting held up in the media end of things, so having to wait on a communication plan, having to wait on a marketing plan. And so we're kind of doing a lot of the media stuff on our own, where it really should be strategic throughout the whole phase, but we can't keep waiting on others to keep getting our work done. So that's been a real challenge for us too. So, but it's looking great. We've made a sort of a turn. We've hired a consultant now to help us with that media piece. So I think slowly the levels are going to start to line up together, which is really great. And of course we have Jody now as our administrator, who's taking on a lot of that coordination at that level. So I think we're going to start to see a turn as we get into our phase 2. So unlike some of the other programs, our project is anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So our funding here is focusing on our first year cycle. So that's sort of where we're at with Kamloops. Katie, do you have anything to add? Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Play Kamloops. I appreciate that. And you do have a different project than a lot of the 15 communities, because yours is a 3 to 5 year, much broader project that goes way beyond this grant cycle. So yeah, your reporting and evaluation is a little bit more complicated, and I feel like you have many more moving pieces because you're looking much further into the future. So yeah, I can appreciate the challenges there, but also the perspective of bringing together different partners and sectors and having that longer term goal. So that's great. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Do we have anyone from Eskedem today? I didn't hear from anyone, but I just want to make sure you haven't joined the call portion. Okay. Nobody from Eskedem. My colleague and I actually had the opportunity to head out to Eskedem a couple of weeks ago, so that was really great to meet everyone there and check out the work that they've been doing, so that was pretty cool. Okay, Colwood, Sarah, go ahead.
Hello, so Sarah from One Ability. We're a collective impact group working toward increasing inclusive physical activity opportunities across the kind of greater Victoria region. And we've been, some of our challenges are being kind of more of a collective impact is not so much engaging sectors, but keeping meaningful engagement through all of our partners. So we have I think over 50 different organizations that are part of our collaborative now, and that can be quite challenging to keep everyone kind of driving the vision forward. And so what we're kind of working on right now is reworking kind of our constellation groups. We kind of built out our stewardship group over the last few years and realized it kind of got too big. If someone didn't fit in a constellation, they kind of just joined the stewardship. And we found that kind of saturated things a little bit and helped or kind of took the focus away from having a few kind of key partners really driving the vision forward and then kind of leading those constellation groups. And then we've also reworked some of our constellation groups based on kind of who is more engaged. And so now we have kind of some smaller...
We're just getting an echo. Are you able to turn your computer speakers down just a bit?
Sorry, it's probably, I was on speakerphone. Is that better?
Sorry, talk again for a sec.
Sorry, I had speakerphone on, so is this better?
I think that's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's you.
Sorry, I'm in my my house and I have a huge rock wall that sometimes blocks some service. So hopefully you can hear me okay now.
No worries.
Okay. So yeah, we're kind of reworking our structure a little bit, and then next week we have our year-end review. So that's going to help kind of guide our goals beyond this project, and also help to create more accountability and responsibility from our partners by kind of bringing in different membership categories. So kind of what capacity do they have to drive One Ability's mission, and making sure that the kind of key stakeholders are also the ones around the table driving the vision forward. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of some kind of logistical things. In terms of our project, we're struggling with collecting data, whether that's for the project. So one of our key projects right now is creating a program inventory of all the inclusive programs across the region, and creating basically a database for the public to be able to access all of the programs in one spot. So that will be housed on our website. But collecting accurate data to put into that database has been challenging because partners are not necessarily filling out the surveys so that we can collect that information and make it usable, and then also recognizing that we have programs that are outside of kind of the One Ability circle, and then following up with those. So there's a lot of outdated information on websites, so kind of go to the website, follow up with the contact, and that program no longer exists. So which has been actually really good to find out, because that's what the public is seeing too. So I can see the frustration with keeping things or having information out there that's not actually accurate. So that will probably be a challenge moving forward as well in terms of sustainability and creating and making sure our information is updated. But we're working on creating more ownership with the organizations to update their own information. So we're just working out some technical things on what that might look like. And then our other kind of big challenge is collecting evidence. So we have a lot of qualitative feedback, lots of experiential testimonials and photos and videos, and just like a lot of really good information or feedback coming from the partners that we work with, but also the community. So it's really great to hear the impact that we're having. Unfortunately, it's been challenging to get that quantitative feedback, which is often what funders are looking for, whether provincial or federal or even more local or corporate stakeholders. So because we're dealing with 50 different organizations, how do we measure the reach that One Ability is having if everyone that we work with is measuring things in different ways or have different priorities of what they're measuring, or not measuring anything at all, which is kind of the norm. So how do we get those numbers to show where we're reaching and how much progress and impact we're having in the community? So that's been a challenge for us for sure. However, I'm hoping to get some information on how other people evaluate things, and a few of us went to an evaluation workshop with Shift last week, and so that kind of helped think about what to measure and how to measure it and how to help that drive our vision forward as well, instead of kind of waiting for the end of the project. So me being kind of the contractor coming in to do some of this work, I wasn't part of the initial grant application, and then so it was challenging for us to kind of pull some of that quantitative data together. But yeah, it's a work in progress. In terms of sustainability, in addition to kind of reworking our structure, we're also looking at focusing in on some goals that are a little bit more narrow focused and within our capacity. So being basically a collective impact group with no like full-time staff or whatnot, we're looking at, okay, where can we make the biggest impact today with what we have now? Because when we started, we had all these really, really great ideas, but didn't really have the capacity to do it. So this grant's really helped us kind of build some capacity to do some of the work that we think is really important in the community, which helps create some tangibles and some resources that we can then bring to other potential funders to show what we can do when we do have the capacity. So I think that's really valuable, and we're really appreciative of the opportunity to do this work through this grant. And then like I said, we're working on some ways to build better buy-in from all our organizations and put some more onus back on them to help drive the work forward. We have a few that have been funding some kind of backbone support since our inception. So this is kind of the first year we've actually had some funding to do some of the work that we've been doing. So I have no doubt that One Ability will continue to do good work, but we can make a bigger impact with more funding and more capacity. So we're looking at ways to kind of increase that reach.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sarah. And I definitely know there's lots of communities out there that are struggling with some of the same things that you mentioned, especially around collecting data. It's a common theme. We have heard of some really cool indicator projects all over the world, actually, where they bring together multiple organizations or even several different local governments to identify what their shared goals or shared desired outcomes are, and then work backwards from there. So we've all agreed that, X is our goal. What are some indicators that will tell us whether we're working towards this, and then which of our respective organizations can collect pieces of data that align with those indicators. So working together to identify your shared interests, and then carving off different pieces of that indicator work and having somewhat of a shared measurement framework so that not every organization is responsible for collecting all the data, but all the information that gets collected from different organizations or different municipalities can feed up into a larger framework that's usable by multiple partners. So there are different strategies to explore, but totally hear you. It's really challenging when you have so many different people at the table and too many cooks in the kitchen, if you will. It can be a bit unwieldy. Common challenges, for sure.
So yeah, that's one of the exercises we're looking at doing next week at our year-end review. So that helps give me some more ideas on how to facilitate that conversation. So thank you.
Awesome, great. Okay, and next we've got a COM, and unfortunately Jackie is not able to attend, but she did ask me to on her behalf, and she provided some updates that I'm just going to share with you. ACOM is working on a new community gym, and the gym was not completed until May. It was supposed to be finished a few months before that. So they're just getting ready now for bookings and events at this new gym. They're hiring a recreation worker, which is a citizen from ACOM, who's going to be starting next week. And then they're going to be doing their big recreation launch for this project during their Aboriginal Day celebration, and they're going to hold it a day early on June 20th. And I'm very fortunate I have the opportunity to travel out to ACOM to take part in their festivities and help celebrate with them, so really looking forward to that. I've also been working with the community to develop a community survey to try and help get some baseline information for them, so distributing that at the gym night that they're doing on June 20th. They also have had a few different delays, of course, like everyone else has mentioned, one of them being the completion of the gym, but then also restructuring. They've had different staff taking on different roles, so that has led to a few delays, but then it's also allowed them to connect a lot of their different program areas, so which is going to help them with sustainability. So linking different program areas of the community together. And then they also, Jackie also wanted me to share that it's been helpful that they're able to kind of take their time and do things the right way. And she felt that support from BC Healthy Communities and other funders was really essential in allowing them to take that time. So they thought that was really helpful, which is really nice to hear. Make sure you're doing things right and not rushed, and that can be challenging with different grant timelines. So they're making sure that they're designing the program to meet the needs of the community and making sure that the community is ready for these changes, which is great. So next in the summer, they're going to be partnering up with Sport for Life. A couple of you are also working with Sport for Life. They're doing some coaching workshops, so they're linking that in with their Active Communities program as well to make sure those two funding opportunities and programs are aligned, hoping to work with more children and youth in the community. They also have a ResPlex facility or kind of a recreation area that's shared between each of the 5 band nations that is in that area. So they're working with each of the bands to figure out how they want to use that facility to better meet the needs of each of the 5 communities. So they've sent out the band council resolutions, and they're still waiting for a couple of the communities to respond, but they're doing a collaborative process to develop a ResPlex that's going to be useful to each of the 5 band nations. And I think that was it for Jackie's update. So next we have Campbell River. Sorry, this is a bit out of order. Michelle, we weren't 100% sure if you were able to join us, but we would love to hear from you. I'll just switch it over to the question slide because we don't have a slide up for you. But Michelle, if your voices allow you, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
I'll do my best. Well, we have a project similar to Campbell's in that we're using a grassroots approach, trying to create a play network. So it's around physical literacy. Our biggest success right now is that we actually have health and the school district at the table. We've got the city's role in all of this is to help build capacity. We want this network to function not independently so much, but we don't want it to be a recreation project. We want it to be a community project. So what we're doing is just supporting this whole process and helping it happen. Sorry. We're actually to the point now where we're identifying projects that the group can do. And one of them is doing a communication plan, but we've also ID'd some possible projects that each of the different sectors will take on. We've also identified who's missing from the table, and we're working on strategies to include their voice in our network. They are on our email list, so they get information. They've expressed interest in being part of this, but they're having trouble prioritizing it or making it. They're so busy, they don't have time to come to the table. And so we've decided we're going to go to them just to make sure that their voice is heard, and when they're ready, they'll be able to step in and feel that they are part of all of this. So I think that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle, and hope you feel better soon.
Me too.
Oh, spring, summer colds are the worst.
I've been sick for almost a month.
Oh, geez. Yeah, they're lingering this year. Keepers. Okay, at this time, we would love to just open it up to any further kind of discussion from each of the communities who's on the call today. If you didn't have a chance to say something that you thought about now, or you had a question for one of the communities that spoke, we'd love to just open it up and hear anything else you'd like to add or ask. So you can feel free to unmute your line and just speak up, and we'll hope that two people don't talk at the same time, or if you'd rather, you can type into the chat box and ask a question, and then we can relay that to the group. So we'll open it up at this time.
Hi, sorry, this is Jody from Play Kamloops. I just had a quick question for Michelle. Actually, I know you're not feeling that great, but I was just curious in what direction you guys took to engage health, or how that worked for you guys.
We went to them and chatted. I already work quite a bit with we call it VHA, Vancouver Island Health. So I already had quite a few contacts in there, and through those contacts, I was able to find the right people to go talk to, and they've decided to send one person's going to attend our meetings and be at them. Plus, we have a few other people that try and come when they can and to be part of the network. And then we have several on our email list that get the information, but and then find ways of, I guess, helping, but they're not necessarily coming to the meetings. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. I'd just like to hear how everyone else is approaching it. So that's awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Question from Celeste for One Ability. Did you know there was potential to partner with 50 organizations, and would you still be willing to grow these partnerships, knowing how challenging it can be to work with so many players?
I think when we started, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I think when we started, we recognized the potential organizations that could sit around the table, and then we kind of started maybe with 20. So I think, and the people that kind of founded One Ability we're already really active in the kind of inclusive physical activity sector. So I think we knew that there were 50 organizations working towards a lot of the same goals, but we're realizing kind of some I guess less obvious partners that have really put some perspective or brought value to the table as well. So, and I think we can keep growing. It's just how to still drive things forward, and I think it is important to keep having a voice around the table, but we're realizing that it's typically, even though there's 50 organizations, it's typically the same like 10 or 15 people or organizations that are, more active within OneAbility. So that's where we're kind of coming into this restructuring a little bit, that we want anyone who wants to be involved in OneAbility to be involved. We don't want to be exclusive because everyone has a different voice or different perspective, and we've really found that a lot of the work we're doing is just facilitating some offline discussions with partners that can work together to do different things, and I think that's been really valuable and a unique kind of impact that we've been able to facilitate. But it comes down more when we're measuring, because when you have such a wide variety of organizations that you work with, how do you measure that impact in the community and in that partnership? So I think we'll continue to grow, but we're just kind of changing how we work, I guess. And I think some of this evaluation and more of that transformative evaluation is going to help drive what that looks like. So essentially we're going to have different membership categories. We kind of have our main partners who are basically investing into OneAbility, whether that's capacity or expertise with graphic design or website development or whatnot, or financial investment, facility investment. And then we kind of have this like active member who's sitting on a constellation group and working on OneAbility projects and staying really engaged that way. And then we kind of have that affiliate member who's like wanting to stay engaged, wanting to get the updates, but doesn't really have the capacity to be more active at that point. And those might shift over the years. So depending on what projects organizations are working on or what capacity they have to contribute towards OneAbility projects, then that might shift a little bit. So we're kind of figuring things out, being new and being a collective impact, but we don't want to turn anyone away from giving their voice, but also recognizing that if you want to help drive the vision forward, there needs to be a bit of investment as well. So we're kind of working out those kinks right now.
Great, Sarah. And I think that brings up a good point, too, that there can be different levels of partnership, because you can have a huge network of people or organizations who are interested in a particular issue or topic or community initiative, but they're not necessarily the ones who are sitting on the working group that's actually kind of driving the work forward, but they're interested in being informed and having a better idea of what's going on in the community and how they might be able to align their own efforts with those of this group. So you can have kind of the larger network partners, and then you can have a steering committee to make some of the decisions, but then even within that steering committee you might have a few people, their working group, who are actually doing the work behind the scenes that are outside of the meetings. Quite often we get people coming to meetings and then nothing gets done in between meetings because everybody's trying to do this work off the sides of their desks, and it can be difficult to move things forward. So it's a good point that you can have kind of different levels of partnership depending on the capacity and level of interest. So thank you. From Amy Leah, for the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, so Ajit, what kind of corporate sponsors have you had success building partnerships with? And you're welcome to type your response or come on the line.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, so mostly for at least since I've been here, which is for the past little while here, we've had most of our successes come with sponsorships with media organizations, so that's print, web, and radio, and pretty much any form of that. A lot of them are willing to provide certain types of support and backing in exchange for, like displaying of their logos, stuff like that. We've also reached out to a lot of local businesses, but we still are waiting on responses from them. But media, we found, was always willing to hop up on board and partner because they're always offering stuff and airtime, which is important for our programs and advertisement overall, because then we can get the word out to more people. And being a regional district, we have a very large area to communicate, as anyone, or to cover, as a lot of you will know. So it helps a lot when we can have a centralized stream through which to communicate all our ideas and making sure that they get all across the region as well. So that's where we've had most of our success. And we've also had success with organizations that are aimed toward, that also share similar goals. So, for example, Communities for Kids and Success by 6, they're not necessarily direct financial partners, but they are important sponsors that make sure that the programs that we are running and the programs that they are running are working in collaboration with each other to make sure that we're achieving the same goals, per se.
Great, thank you very much. Really helpful. Amy Lee is typing. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Amy Leah, fabulous. Thank you, Ajit. Great. Okay. Well, if we don't have any further questions, Ajit is typing. Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, great. Well, I think we might be able to wrap a bit early today unless there's any final comments. A huge thank you again for everybody for participating, especially given that most of you have sunny weather where you are. So really nice that you were staying inside, participating in this webinar. We appreciate it, and I'm sure all of the communities appreciate hearing what else is happening, how you're overcoming some of the barriers that you talked about, and your ideas for sustainability. As always, we really want to thank the funders of this project. We're supported by the BC Physical Activity Strategy, so the BC Alliance for Healthy Living, the Province of BC, and then specifically Island Health and Interior Health Authorities. So, huge thank you to the funders, and if you don't have any other comments or questions, then you are more than welcome to get on with your day. Please always get in touch with us. If you have any questions or concerns, we're happy to just chat with you at any time. So please stay in touch, and we look forward to reading about the final pieces of your project in your final report. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.